Goswami ki jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa. Jai Vajrakacharya Sutara Satakirti. Bhaktivedanta Swami Tirobhava ki jai. Tirobhava ki jai. Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Shri Radha Govinda Madhav ki jai. Shri Krishna Balaram. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami Tirobhava Mahamahotsav ki jai. Oda Premanandi.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Shri Guru Maharaj. All glory to Shri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Kinamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani. I apologize, it must be volume 2 of the Adi Lila. This is 3, I must have got it wrong. I thought it was 3, but maybe 2. See if we have 2. So we might need a French translation. Is there any devotee, Vaishnava or Vaishnavi, who would be kind enough to give a French translation? We have Philip Prabhu and Mais Prabhu. Let me just double check that for a second. Hold on. Who will need a French translation? Anyone jumping forward?
I can try.
Who's trying?
I can try.
Oh, you're not French. Is there? Pardon? French translation. You can try. Krishna Bhakti is okay. So how we do it? There's 2 boys. Where would you like to sit? Should they come over here? They can. Why don't Mais and Philip? Would you be happy to sit with over here? Krishna Bhakti. Wherever you're comfortable. If you can come and sit here. Thank you so much. So we're going to, let's see, what are we going to do here? We'll read a little bit from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's page 319, let's see. You okay? You getting a translation there? To Spanish? Portuguese, sorry. Portuguese. English, Lithuanian, Portuguese, the Russian. I think Russian devotees, mostly they've gone on Sankirtan this morning to Amboise. Is that right?
Yes.
To deliver the famous Leonardo da Vinci. Okay. We'll read a little bit here from Srila Prabhupada, and it's not on the board. Please forgive us. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. This is the Adi Leela chapter 10, text number 105. Shri Gopala Bhatta Eka Shaka Sarvotam Rupa Sanatana Sange Janra Prema Alapan. Translation. Shri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, the 47th branch. Is this okay? The 47th branch. When it says 47th branch, this is a description of the various primary associates of Lord Chaitanya. He has unlimited associates. So these are just some of the primary ones. I would have thought you would have gone to Amboise, Jyoti. No? Good. So Gopal Bhatta is listed as the 47th. It's not necessarily any particular, what we say, hierarchy. Like that. Just how it is. Was one of the great and exalted branches of the tree. He always engaged in discourses about love of Godhead in the company of Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. If you read the Sad Goswami Ashtakam prayers, we'll see there how they would come together and discuss Krishna's pastimes, and how they showered on the world mercy in the form of songs and glorifications about Krishna. So let's read Prabhupada's purport. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami was the son of Venkata Bhatt, a resident of Sri Rangam. I wanted to ask Lochananda what the actual meaning of Bhatta is. It's a common surname, Brahmins in South India, but it will have a meaning also. But I don't know the exact meaning of Bhatta. We know Gopala. Gopala Bhatta formerly belonged to the disciplic succession of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Most of you are familiar with this. There are 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas. Ramanujacharya is amongst the Gaudiyas, that's us. He's also very, very highly respected. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many times, let's say not many times, but he took from Ramanujacharya certain aspects of Ramanujacharya's devotion, his teaching. Very prominent Vaishnava in South India. And he was the Acharya, the head of the Sri Sampradaya at the time. Till this day, he remains the Acharya, worshipped by all followers of the Sri Sampradaya. Sri Sampradaya is descending as a Sampradaya coming down from Lakshmi Devi to the present day. So Ramanujacharya was in that Sampradaya, as was Venkata Bhatt, as was Gopal Bhatt at that time. And as Prabhupada says here, he then later became part of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. I guess we can comment as we go through this. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says here, yes, in the year 1433 Shakabda, as you all know what that means, 1433 Shakabda. That's 1511 on the our calendar, on the Gregorian or the Western calendar, 1511. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas in 1510 in January, and after taking sannyas he proceeded to Puri, and after a short while in Puri, after the pretty much a few months, he then proceeded on his journey to South India. So in 1511, more or less 6 or 7 months after leaving Puri, he arrived in a very famous holy place called Sri Rangam. Some of you have been to Sri Rangam? Someone's saying yes? Ananga Manjari, you've been there? Who else? Also Krishna Sharna. You've been everywhere. Where have you not been? You haven't been to China yet. We'll send you to China. Vishnu Janananda has been all over India on pilgrimage. So Sri Rangam is in Tamil Nadu, and Trichy, they call it Trichy, some long name. And that is the, practically speaking, the largest Hindu temple in area, in size. Beautiful temple. They have typical South Indian temple with a beautiful, like in the center is the temple. Then they have what they call the Gopuram, the gate. Huge gates they have in South India. Very ornate, extreme. You've seen pictures, huh? Really, really ornate. Part of the Gopuram, yeah. Very, very ornate. The Gopuram, the entrance gate, the Puram to the city. Here's the gates like to the spiritual Vaikuntha, to the land of the lords. And they have all these walls just like in Vaikuntha, you know. You know the story of Jai and Vijay, you know, trying to enter into Vaikuntha. Then 7 I think 7 walls. In Sri Rangam, they have 7 walls also? 7? I'm not sure. Many, many walls. And you go through one. They're happy to have the ISKCON devotees enter there, by the way. You're welcome. They're very friendly. And it's amazing. You see there the deity. What's the deity's name? Ranganath. Sri Ranganath. He's lying down, reclining. Huge deity. Beautiful. Lying down. Anyway, if you go to Tamil Nadu and you have the time, take a visit to Sri Rangam. ISKCON temple there also. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Sri Rangam, and there he stayed in the house of Venkata. Venkata happened to be one of the main pujaris, priest of the temple. And his family were all Sri Vaishnavas. His brother, he had a very famous brother. You know his name? 2 brothers, very famous. One was named Tirobhava Bhatta, and the other was very famous, also linked to the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Anyone remember his name? Prabodhananda Saraswati, very famous Gaudiya Vaishnava, who also moved to Vrindavan. There's many, let's say, famous pastimes around Prabodhananda Saraswati and his writings, etc. So Lord Chaitanya stayed there in the house of Venkata, and not long. When this Chaturmasya has begun? When? 3 days ago? So during this period, in fact, right in this period, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 1511, so how many years that is? I don't know, 512 or something, years ago, was staying in the house of Venkata during Chaturmasya. He stayed 4 months in the house. And let's see what Prabhupada says next. So Gopal, he got the opportunity to serve the Lord to his heart's content. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami was later initiated by his uncle, the great sannyasi Prabodhananda Saraswati. Sometimes it's said that during that time, he was initiated by Lord Chaitanya. Different type of initiation. Huh? We tend to refer to initiation as a ceremony where you accept vows and get a name and this is your guru. But that's not all there is to it. Initiation is, what can we say? It's ultimately the re-entry into our eternal relationship with the Lord, which includes all kinds of various, let's say, stages. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in Sri Rangam, Gopal Bhatta was a small boy. He appeared in this world in 1503. So he'd been about 8 years old at that time. And he immediately became magnetically attracted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He would spend all of his time, as much as he could anyway, in the association of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya was very affectionate towards him. It said that Lord Chaitanya would even sit him on his lap. And Lord Chaitanya would feed him his own remnants of his prasadam. He knew who he was. He actually, sometimes he said dreams, sometimes said he stated, he said, later, he said, you should go to Vrindavan and reside in Vrindavan and associate with Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. Lord Chaitanya gave him that instruction. But he said, right now you have to stay here in Sri Rangam. Your parents are great devotees of the Lord. Although they were followers of Ramanuj and they were worshippers of Lakshmi Narayan, they were very dear to Lord Chaitanya. In fact, they worshipped Lord Chaitanya, but they could not give up their bhav, their mood of love for Lakshmi Narayan. It's amazing, huh? Amongst Lord Chaitanya's followers, some of his followers were worshippers of Sitaram, some of Lord Nrsingadev, and here we see Lakshmi Narayan.
Some of Varahadev.
Huh?
One of Varahadev.
Varahadev. Huh? Varahadev. Different forms of the Lord. It's their We understand in these cases that they are eternal servants of those personalities. It's not like they've got some, other sentiment, but that's their eternal position. The various expansions of Lord do have their eternal associates, no matter what. They also understand, Venkatabhat understood, yes, the worship of Radha Krishna is, it's more complete. We don't say higher or lower, that gives a relative perspective, but it's more complete in its aspects of loving exchange, There's no Madhurya Rasa, for instance, at least not other than for Lakshmi Devi. There's no Madhurya Rasa in relationship to Lakshmi Narayan. Doesn't exist. So the worship of Radha and Krishna has all the various relationships. He knew that, but he said, I can't give up my worship of Lakshmi Narayan. So chaste. But he worshipped Lord Chaitanya. He was also a great follower of Lord Chaitanya. Venkatabhat, we're talking. Father of Gopal Bhatta. But Gopal Bhatta was a little different. He's not an eternal worshipper of Lakshmi. He is, but that's not his eternal bhav or eternal mood. He's a worshipper of Radha and Krishna. So is Prabodhananda Saraswati. So it says here, he took initiation from his uncle because his uncle was also a worshipper. Anyway, it's all very internal. But Lord Chaitanya initiated him in another way. He gave him his instructions, what to do, where to go, when to go. Said, you stay here and look after your parents. They're getting old, and you should look after them. And when they pass away, then you go to Vrindavan. Like this. So when Lord Chaitanya, after the 4 months of the rainy season, Chaturmasya in India is generally known as the rainy season. Is that right? It rains a lot, does it? Yeah, he lived there all these years in India, in Mayapur. I'd like to thank Philip, by the way, yesterday for facilitating that meeting yesterday. Thank you very much. I think it's good to keep this going whenever. I don't know how often you can do it, but regularly anyway. It's a good idea. It's a community meeting. Very good idea. A nice community meeting yesterday. Back to Philip. This is one of his expertise, is facilitating and helping arrange these things and try to help us to get, more on top of how to economize and how to utilize things a little bit more intelligently, so to speak. So, yes, after he left, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. Gopal Bhatta came, little boy, Gopal at that time came to him and fell and started crying, bawling his eyes out, as we say in English. Crying his eyes out as Lord Chaitanya was leaving. So Lord Chaitanya agreed to stay a few days extra, just to satisfy him. But then he left, and everyone was crying and crying and crying. Whilst Lord Chaitanya was there, Gopal had asked Lord Chaitanya, because he'd heard about this and that, about his life and so on, maybe from the Lord or maybe from his uncle, I don't know, but somehow or other he heard. And he heard about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Navadvip before he took sannyas. Those sweet pastimes in Navadvip Dham. So he asked the Lord if he could please see those pastimes. He wanted to see them. How can you see them? So then, in a vision, a dream, vision, whatever, Lord Chaitanya revealed all those pastimes to Gopal. He was able to see there Lord Chaitanya and old Mahaprabhu and all of his associates in Navadvip. He was seeing all the pastimes before him. He was so happy to see this pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Both the father and mother of Gopal Bhatta were extremely fortunate, for they dedicated their entire lives to the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They allowed Gopal Bhatta to go to Vrindavan, and they gave up their lives thinking of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was said that just before they left, they reminded their son of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. They said, now is the time to go, we are leaving. And then they left their bodies, and Gopal Bhatta then left for Vrindavan. And when he arrived in Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very eager. Lord Chaitanya had already informed Rupa and Sanatan to wait and look out for this devotee from South India who would be coming named Gopal. So they were always waiting and wondering when he would come. And Lord Chaitanya was also, of course, he's all-knowing, but still appearing in this form, he was behaving as if he didn't know. So he sent a messenger to Vrindavan to find out, has Gopal arrived? Has he arrived or not? So the messenger went, and of course it took a little time. No WhatsApp in those days. No internet. No mobile. No Facebook. You had to, messages were, perhaps there was quicker ways of doing it, but generally you had to go by overland, with a message, and then overland the message would come back. In England they used to use pigeons. Send the pigeon. I don't know how they did it, but they used to do. Still do, some people. So, and some would go on horseback. But in this case, he walked. The messenger walked to Vrindavan to find out what was going on. And when he got there, he asked Rupa and Sanatan, has he arrived? They said, yes, he's arrived. And they sent a message back to Lord Chaitanya describing everything about what's going on there. And the message came back. Rupa also asked Lord Chaitanya if Gopal could worship his deities of Radha Govindaji. So the message came back. Lord Chaitanya was very, very happy to hear this message. And he sent some of his own personal items to Gopal Bhatta. He sent them with a message that he should stay there in Vrindavan and serve Rupa and associate with Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis, live his whole life in Vrindavan as a Goswami. So the message went back. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent his own sitting place. He had his little wooden seat. Where's our Gaurangi? She's not here today. She has this little thing that she sits on, a little bit higher, 1 foot, 12 inches high, Lord Chaitanya's sitting place. It's still there in the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya also sent some of his upper cloth, it's called Uttaraya, this upper cloth, and some of his underwear for Gopal Bhatta. I mean, it's hard for us to imagine how precious these are to the devotees, Sometimes we give these, this was one, I'm wearing it, maybe I shouldn't, but we used to wear, Prabhupada said we could wear deity paraphernalia. We used to wear the deity paraphernalia on Harinam in London. And Prabhupada said we could do it. The chadas, the deities today are like a festival of colors, isn't it? It's incredible. It's like, amazing. The pujari is wonderful, wonderful, so nice. So many colors. And they're all like, how to say, complementing each other. They're all like increasing each other's beauty, and what to speak of the beauty of the deities. So, yeah, we used to wear the deities' paraphernalia. The chadas, sometimes old chadas, they give them we get an old chada and we wear it on Harinam. Up and down Oxford Street, there were 5 or 6 devotees with deity dress on, Not the dhoti, I don't mean everything like that. But like the chada, especially the chadas. And like that. And so, anyway, he gave these cloths to Gopal Bhatta. Gopal Bhatta worshipped these items, and to this day they're still worshipped in the temple of Radharaman. Let's see where we go from here. But Gopal Bhatta had gone to Vrindavan and met Rupa and Sanatan. Lord Chaitanya was very pleased. And Lord Chaitanya advised Rupa and Sanatan to accept Gopal Bhatta as their younger brother and take care of him. They were like old brothers, the 6 Goswamis. Sri Sanatan Goswami had a great affection for Gopal Bhatta. Okay, it's going on, jumping on a little bit here. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, when he lived in Vrindavan, mostly at Radhakund, but in Vrindavan, between the two. They all were like that, moving around a bit. Gopal Bhatta Goswami is very famous. His time in Vrindavan. Not much is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The reason being is because when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Babaji Goswami, whatever, wanted to compile the teaching, was ordered to compile the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he requested blessings from all the Goswamis of Vrindavan. And he went to Gopal Bhatta also. But Gopal Bhatta said, I give all my blessings, but on the condition you don't mention my name. So hardly any, there's a little bit, but very little mention of Gopal Bhatta in Chaitanya. This is one of the mentions. But nothing much about him or his pastimes is mentioned. So that's perhaps one of the reasons we don't find anything, hardly anything anyway, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about him. What we read is mostly in the purport. So it was a little, let's say, not so much documented. But he's famous for certain, very famous for certain, let's say, services. And Prabhupada is mentioning one of them here. So we'll go in order. Prabhupada is mentioning his literary contribution. And he starts off by saying, Sanatana Goswami, out of his great affection for Gopal Bhatta Goswami, compiled the Vaishnava Smriti named Hari Bhakti Vilas and published it under the name of Gopal Bhatta. So that's one famous thing, was the this book. You may not have read it, you've heard of it perhaps, Hari Bhakti Vilas. Most of our deity worship and rituals and Vaishnava Smriti or various, behaviors, etiquettes and so on are related to this Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's quite a large literature, quite a few volumes. It is available in English. I don't know if we have it here. Different translations have been made. But originally this is a very questionable. Different acharyas say different things about this. How it came to be, who actually compiled it, how it was compiled, its history, and so on. So it's understood by all the acharyas, including Srila Prabhupada, maybe not here, maybe in another place, I don't know. But it is described that this was a collaboration. That means between the two, Sanatana Goswami and Gopal Bhatta, who put this literature together. But because Gopal Bhatta was from the Sri Sampradaya, Sanatana Goswami was, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Not so recognized by what's known as the smarta Brahmins in India. They're very strict when it comes to your line, disciplic line. And they weren't so favorable towards accepting the Gaudiya Sampradaya. But Gopal Bhatta was from the Sri Sampradaya, at least by lineage, by birth. So his position was much more acceptable, you could say. So that's one reason it was put in the name of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Why Sanatana Goswami says, compiled by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Another reason is it's understood that this Vaishnava literature was written specifically to also accommodate and convince, make acceptable the Gaudiya line in the eyes of the other Sampradayas, in the eyes of the smarta Brahmins. So Gopal Bhatta was trained in that line. He knew all the rules and rituals and everything. So it said he made the foundation of the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Some acharyas say he got the information together. And Sanatana Goswami put it in a Vaishnava presentation, a Gaudiya Vaishnava presentation, to satisfy the general Brahmins and also as a guidebook for Vaishnavas. Bringing both together. Although Prabhupada writes in his purport on this subject matter that the Hari Bhakti Vilas is specifically written for India. Specifically written for India. And in other places he says this is not necessarily applicable. The Acharya has to see time, place, and circumstance, what is and what isn't. We may not be capable of doing that, but that is the principle. So we don't take hard and fast every statement of Hari Bhakti Vilas as, absolute in time, place, and circumstance. that's another subject. So together it's said that they compiled this vast literature, which is very significant foundation literature for the acceptance of Gaudiya Vaishnava and the direction. As you know, the Goswamis were given this instruction to compile literature to explain the philosophy, but also the practice of devotional service. Let's see where we now. Gopal Bhatta, under the instructions of Rupa and Sanatan, Gopal Bhatta Goswami installed one of the 7 principal deities of Vrindavan. And many of you know who that is. Who is that? Pardon? Radharani. Radharaman. Very good. Radharaman. Very special story. I don't know if Prabhupada tells it here. Doesn't look like it. It's a very special story. Let's say pastime. It's not just a story, it's a reality. It's a pastime of the Lord and his devotees. One time Gopal Bhatta Goswami was very, very absorbed in Lord Chaitanya. He had, as a child, his heart, he was always meditating on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was really hoping to get the Lord's association, but of course he wasn't there, he was in Vrindavan. So he was meditating like this. The Lord appeared to him and said, Gopal, if you want my darshan, you have to go to Nepal. Now this is unique. It's not that we're suggesting everyone should go to Nepal to get the darshan of Lord Chaitanya. But in this particular case, Lord Chaitanya gave him that instruction. And not just to Nepal, to the Kali Gandaki River. How many of you have been to the Kali Gandaki River? Anyone been to the Kali Gandaki River? No one? You been there, Gaur? Where the Shalagram Shilas are obtained? You been there?
Yeah, I didn't go to Damodar Cove. I was on my way, but I gave up. It's too high.
Too high. Yeah, too high a subject matter up there.
Very, very difficult for me.
Difficult. Yeah, but okay, anyway, he went there. This is a river which flows. There's a series of mountains called the Annapurna Range, which is in Nepal. Beautiful mountains, absolutely beautiful. They're just near a city called Pokhara, which is also a very touristy place, you could say. But near there are these beautiful mountains, maybe some of the most beautiful mountains in the world. Annapurna Range. And from there the Kali Gandaki River flows. And that's where you obtain Shalagram Shila. There's just, I don't know how, you can't count things like this, but never-ending Shalagram Shilas are found in the riverbed there. So he went there to that place. When he was about, he's taking his bath, but different stories, some say hands, some say lota. But he was bathing in the river, and let's do lota's easy one. He put his lota into bathe, and when he pulled it out, he saw there were Shalagram Shilas in his lota. They come out, somewhere they got in there. So he kind of poured it back out again, and took the water again, looked, and they were there again. He poured it back, and then they picked up his lota again, thinking just water, and the Shilas were there again. 3 times. So he thought, well, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I have to take these Shilas with me, or they have to take me with them. There were 12 of them. So he did, after spending some time there, he returned to Vrindavan. And when he was in Vrindavan, he was worshipping these Shilas. There was no temple at that time. The Goswamis had not built temples so much at this moment. They were worshipping deities. Temples came later. And he was worshipping these Shalagrams, and he was always thinking, oh, my brothers, the other Goswamis, they've all got forms of Radha Krishna. But I've only got Shalagram Shila. Yes, it's Radha and Krishna, it's Krishna, whatever. But it's not the same. He wanted the form. And then one day, one rich merchant came, his name was Seth, came there, and somehow was inspired within his heart to go to see Gopal Bhatta and offer him some beautiful vesh, some beautiful dresses, just suitable for worshipping Radha and Krishna. So he brought these dresses, crowns, mukuts, and all kinds of jewelry and so on and so forth, for worshipping Radha Krishna. He came and saw Gopal, and Gopal said, what am I going to do with these? I only have shalagram. They don't fit shalagram. You better give them to one of the other Goswamis who have deities of, Krishna. Two-arm form deities. No, only you. He insisted, so he gave him the dresses. What am I going to do with them now? And he was thinking like this, so he prayed to his Shilas that, whatever, what am I going to do now? That was actually on the Nrsimha Chaturdasi. So he wanted so much, and he saw this as a further sign that, he wants to worship the Lord in this form. So he worshipped the Lord all night long, and then he took a little rest. In the morning, didn't sleep much, an hour or so. Got up, went to the river Yamuna to take his bath. In those days, they didn't have taps. There were no taps with running water, or switches where you turn on the electricity, or washing machines which wash your clothes for you. None of those things were there then, even in France. So he got up, he went back to do his puja of his Shilas. He had them covered with a cloth. He took off the cloth. Shock of his life. What did he see? What did he see lying there on his cloth? Deity of Krishna. A deity of Krishna was lying on his cloth. Not very big, about this big. Beautiful blackish deity. Couldn't believe it. What's happened here? Wait a minute. There's only 11 Shilas. One Shila's disappeared. There were 12. Now there's only 11. What's happened here? Then he looked and he saw Radharani. Picked up the deity. And he saw on the back of the deity there was like the partial form of a Shila on the back of the deity. He realized that one of the deities, he called this deity Damodar Shila. That deity was named Damodar. The Damodar Shila had overnight, or not maybe overnight, but whilst he was resting or whatever, had transformed himself into a two-armed form. Threefold, Tribhangananda, threefold bending, two-armed form, like this. To satisfy his devotee. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So, yes, the Lord appears in that form for his devotee. So he did. So then it so happened all the dresses were perfect size for that deity. We began worshipping that deity. All the Goswamis came, they were in ecstasy paying their obeisances and respects to the deity. They had the Abhishek, everything, and they requested, now you worship this deity. Gopal had been worshipping also, apparently, Radha Govindaji of Rupa Goswami also. For some time it said he was worshipping. But now he had Radharaman. Now where's Radharani? There's no Radharani there. How many of you have been to the Radharaman temple? That will be more hands going up. Come on, you've been there. Yes, you must. You came with me. Can't remember one from the other. When you go first time, sometimes you can't remember which is which. Anyone else? You've been there. Hands up, come on, all those fortunate souls. Oh, lots and lots of hands have gone up. So, where's Radharani? Okay, Radharaman, one who brings great pleasure to Radharani is Krishna. But Radharaman, we don't usually say that, isn't it interesting? So Krishna's never without Radha. Where's Radharani? Where is she? Is this the mood of separation? That Krishna just left the Rasa Leela, or what's going on here? Left Vrindavan, went to Mathura, but then there'll be, where's Rukmini? Where's Radharani? You can't do that in Vrindavan. Where is she? Huh? Yeah, well, sometimes it said dress, but usually it said crown. There's a little next to Radharaman is like a little asana, and a crown is there. Sometimes dress, which represents Radharani. She's there. We can't see the form, but she's there. She's always there. We just don't see the form. Very special deity. Now, another special feature about this deity, besides the fact that it's so beautiful, this deity has teeth. Have you ever seen a deity with teeth? Fingernails. Unique. Very fine. Very fine. A special form of Krishna, huh? Isn't it? Another thing is a little smaller than the other deities, much smaller. And when the Muslims came, mostly all the deities in Vrindavan were removed before they came, those they could. Main deities were all taken to Jaipur or Karoli, other places. Radharaman stayed in Vrindavan. They're the only, of the Goswamis, the only original deity of Krishna remaining in Vrindavan. Because they were very small. You know, some people, they try to measure God, you know. Oh. He was too small. Too small. So he didn't get bothered. He stayed in Vrindavan. The only one left. A very special temple. Prabhupada really liked that temple. Now there's other reasons too. Prabhupada really liked that temple of Radharaman, and he liked, because he lived very close to there. Much of the time Prabhupada lived just in the same lane actually. The Vamsi Gopalji temple is in the same lane as Radharaman, just 100 meters away. Prabhupada would go there every day, 1, 2, 2, 3 times a day. So he was very familiar with the Goswamis who were looking after Radharaman. So he was very attached to that temple. And he told ISKCON devotees to go there to study and find how to, perform first-class deity worship in Vrindavan. So that's in the past. So anyway, that deity is very, very special, Radharaman. And later on, of course, a beautiful temple was built there in that particular place where Radharaman was worshipped. Very famous temple. The Goswamis there have always been very favorable to the devotees of ISKCON in general. There's a story there that how that came to be. When Gopal Bhatta was in Vrindavan, one time he wanted to visit Hardwar. How many of you have been to Hardwar? Hardwar? Not so many hands. And several of them are from Indian descent. All Indian people go to Hardwar, Rishikesh Hardwar. If you're a Hindu and, a bit religious. It's one of the most famous pilgrimage places in India, Hardwar. Haridwar, the gates to Vaikuntha, Haridwar, the gate to Hari. So it's like the first beginning, you could say, of the Himalayas. You kind of start the rise up to Rishikesh and then further up to the source of the Ganga. It's on the river Ganga. And you go up that, further up till you get to Gangotri and this one and that one. Deva Prayag and what have you. So Hardwar. And he went to Hardwar. Doesn't say he went anywhere else. But on his way back to Vrindavan for Hardwar, there was a tremendous storm. Such a storm that no one could travel. So he stayed, there was one village near Hardwar, he stayed there during the storm in the house of one Brahmin there, who was so happy that he had the opportunity for such a saintly person to stay in his home for a few hours. He was in ecstasy. And Gopal Bhatta noticed that the Brahmin was quite elderly, he and his wife. They had no children. And the Brahmin was rather unhappy because he had no children. So Gopal Bhatta blessed him and said, I bless you that you will have a son who will become a devotee of Krishna. The Brahmin was very happy and said, my dear, whatever, Sadhu, I promise you that if I have a son, I will send him to you when he grows up to serve you. So Gopal Bhatta went on his way, life went on. And Gopal Bhatta stayed in Vrindavan, worshipping his deities, Shalagam and Radharaman and so on. associating with the Goswamis, writing literature. He wrote other literature too. Satkriya Sara Deepika is a famous literature specifically for grihastas. Directions, spiritual direction, beneficial directions for grihastas. He made a commentary for Jiva Goswami's Satsandarbha, introduction, and helped a little bit in that compilation.
That's what you chant after worshipping Shaikam Shiva.
Pardon?
You say that after worshipping Shaikam Shiva. Satkriya Sara Deepika.
Yeah. Pardon? I don't understand.
Deepika, you say that. I say that after worshipping Shaikam.
Oh, you do say it. Oh, very good.
So that's coming from that.
Comes from Gopal Bhatta. Yeah, he established these things for the worship of Shalagram and for householders particularly who worship Shalagram, etc. All these various compilations to help devotees in their practice of devotional service. This is what their principle is. For themselves, what do they need? But for us. So he, after about 10 years, one time, he saw outside of his bhajan kutir there was a young boy, about maybe 8 or 9 years old, outside his bhajan kutir. He'd gone somewhere, he came back and there was this boy stood there. And he said, "Who are you?" He said, "I have been sent here by my father to serve you. I want to dedicate my life to serving you." His name was Gopinath. So then Gopal Bhatta accepted him as a disciple, initiated him. He became known as Gopinath Pujari also. But that boy remained a celibate his whole life, worshipping Radharaman on the instruction of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So what to do? Where is the lineage from a celibate brahmachari? There isn't one. So Gopal Bhatta asked his younger brother, the Brahmin had another son named Damodar. He also asked him, he gave this boy, the other brother initiation too. The other brother came to Vrindavan also. And Gopal Bhatta asked him to get married. So the Damodar got married, and then from his descendants, the pujaris of the Radharaman temple have come, descendant from that boy. To this very day, they are worshipping the deity of Radharaman. So that's a little something there about the deity and the worship of the descendants. Very nice arrangement they have there. We're not developed here. We tried it. I tried it actually in New Varsham when I was there. It worked for a few days. That each family would worship the deity for one day of the week. We had like 7 families who were Brahmin initiated. So one day each family would have for worshipping the deity. That's the system in the Radharaman temple. It's not by day, it's by month or something. One family takes responsibility. When I say family, there's many brothers, different lines coming from the same one. So I don't know how many, but they've all got their houses all around the Radharaman temple. So one month it'll be this group, and then the next month it'll be this one. And like that, they take turns. So we tried it, and it was interesting. Experiment for a few days. It was too much for most grihastas, because we're not full time and not like living in Vrindavan. But it was very interesting, and it doesn't mean you do everything. Obviously not. Our daily worship is quite demanding. But to all the artis, all the offerings, that much at least, like 7 artis and 7 offerings a day. Doable. It was doable. I was married at the time. It was very doable. It wasn't really impossible, but you have to be serious, on the ball. There's no time for sleeping during the day, no space out during the day. Very ecstatic, I must say, very ecstatic. Anyway, that's their system there in the temple. We just finish off the purport. When Krishnadas Daviraj, we spoke on it, we didn't read it. Jiva Goswami has written the beginning of Tattva Sandarbha, a devotee from southern India who was born of a Brahmin family and was a very intimate friend of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, has written a book that he has not compiled chronologically. So he even gives credit to Gopal Bhatta for his compilation of the Sandarbhas. He hadn't done it chronologically. Therefore, I, a tiny living entity known as Jiva, am trying to assort the events of the book chronologically, consulting the direction of great personalities like Madhvacharya, Sridhar Swami, Ramanujacharya, and other senior Vaishnavas in the disciplic succession. In the beginning of the Bhagavat Sandarbha, there are similar statements by Jiva Goswami. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami compiled a book, we mentioned that, Kriya Sara Deepika, edited the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and they said he edited it also, wrote a foreword to the Sat Sandarbha and a commentary on Krishna Karnamrita, and installed the Radharanda, do we know. In the Gauraganadesh Deepika, this is a book which describes the eternal position in Krishna Lila of many of Lord Chaitanya's associates. It is mentioned that his previous name in the pastimes of Lord Krishna was, who knows? What was his name in Krishna Lila? In the Gauraganadesh Deepika, it doesn't say that. No, it doesn't say that in the Gauraganadesh Deepika. Everyone's saying the same thing. There's no point saying the same thing because I just said that's not what it says. Our acharyas say that, but that's not what the Gauraganadesh Deepika says. Who knows? Ananga Manjari. Ananga, is she still here? Ananga Manjari. There you go, special day, Ananga. Sometimes it is also said that he is an incarnation of Guna Manjari. He had another very esteemed disciple. Gopinath was one, and he had many others, Damodar, many other great devotees. But one very famous disciple, who was that? It is said that through his disciples, the Bhakti Shastras would be preached. Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya, who wrote the Sad Goswami Ashtakam. He was his disciple. It was ordained by the Lord that Srinivas would take initiation from Gopal Bhatta. So through Srinivas, of course, the acharyas took the Shastras, retrieved the Shastras from when they were stolen by that, what was his name? That king? Bihambir, King Bihambir, who stole the Shastras who were on their way to Bengal. And Srinivas stayed back, also initiated King Bihambir and his whole dynasty into Gaudiya Vaishnavas and retrieved the Shastras. So through his disciple and following on from Srinivas, many disciples, would preach this message of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. A wonderful day to our 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Our whole movement, we're trying to follow in their footsteps. Our movement's based on their teachings. We can't imitate their behavior, so to speak, but at least their teachings we can try to follow. Hare Krishna. And how do we follow their teachings? What's the best way? Oh, who said that? That's one good way. Huh? We continue distributing those books to others, right? That's a good way. They did. I mean, they set their literatures with Srinivas and Shyamananda and Narottam to spread them all over East India, at least. That's one good way. We can take those. Today's manifestation of the writings of the Goswamis are Srila Prabhupada's writings, so we can take those writings. They're all based on the Goswamis' literature. We can take those writings and give them to others. We can also study them. They were very intent on studying the Shastras. Huh? Very important to study them too, if we can. Study those books. What else? What else can we do? Well, they installed deities and they told how to worship the deities. We can worship the deities very nicely. Huh? Anything else?
say that because in Kali Yuga it is said all disciplic succession Vaishnava will melt and be one. So
that's another thing, isn't it?
That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made some arrangement with the Sri Vaishnava to be incorporated with the Gaudiya Vaishnava and be authentified as
one.
Like
one mission, huh? One mission. Yes, to bring Vaishnavas together. This is certainly Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire and intent. As Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, if you go to Mayapur, you'll see one temple there, huh? 4 Sampradaya temple. You've seen? All the 4 Sampradayas are, the idea is to bring them all. We may have different moods, we have different detailed practices, but the objective goal is one. To dedicate our lives, to surrender to Krishna in whatever form. So to bring that unity amongst the Vaishnavas, yes. That's a big challenge. To bring unity amongst ISKCON, what to speak amongst the 4 Sampradayas. To bring unity amongst the devotees here at New Mayapur, what to speak of ISKCON. To bring unity in their own hearts, what to speak amongst others, is a big challenge. Even in our own hearts we're torn apart sometimes. So unity and diversity is a big topic. Krishna in the center. Putting Krishna in the center. What else?
Maharaj, there are some, when you spoke about Sri Rangam, in Sri Rangam there is, Krishna has got a Muslim girlfriend, a Muslim...
Hold on, we're going nicely in a different direction here, but I'm talking about a specific subject. How is this related to that subject?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm asking, is it like an Asampradaya? Because there are these kind of devotees, we hear these stories, like Krishna's got a Muslim girlfriend in Sri Lanka, she's a princess from the Delhi Sultanate.
Okay.
So
It's kind of...
like Ashapradayas?
Yeah, well, is a little bit, you could say, going off a little bit there, this way and that way. Is it an Apra Sampradaya? Is it another Sampradaya? The whole idea is to bring everything into the river of Vaishnava Dharma. No matter what your idea is, whatever we're doing now, but to help people to come towards Vaishnava Dharma. They may be practicing God knows what, rightly or wrongly, but to somehow or another bring everyone to Vaishnava Dharma. This is the point, where whatever our path may be. So yeah, everything can be related like that. And you can call it what you like, but the idea is to bring it to what the Goswami's intention was, or Lord Chaitanya's intention was, to bring everyone into the, Vaishnava Dharma, so to speak. Or to realize, what it means, Vaishnava Dharma. Some people offend it because they don't know what it means. Just like we heard the other day how, what was his name? Achyuta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's first son. Actually, it's an interesting story. I'll just finish off on that. But Achyuta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had, quite a lot of children, but his first son was named, his name wasn't Achyuta, but they all called him Achyuta. He was born of Bhaktivinoda's first wife, who left her body 9 months after the child was born. And then he got married again to Bhagavati. And all the other children were born of Bhagavati. But the first one was born of the first wife, I can't remember her name. And this boy was not really interested in devotional service. He wasn't distant. He just didn't bother. It didn't attract him. Bhajan was not his thing. He was more materialistic. So he went to college. He was quite a bright kid. Got married. Doing quite well, 3 kids. At the age of 25 or so, he went mad. I don't think that's probably not the right term to use nowadays. It's probably considered to be literally incorrect. He went crazy. Lost his, just behaved like a madman. Nothing anyone could do. He was finished with his family, everything. It's a madman. He just went here and there as a madman. Sometimes he would chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. You can imagine how he would sometimes chant. So after he's about 35, something like that, he got really sick. Not really sick, he got flu. like a really severe cold. But it never improved. He didn't have Gopaswami around him. He couldn't get better. He got sicker and sicker and sicker. And nobody knew what to do. The allopathic doctors, the Ayurvedic doctors all had to look at it. Nothing could be done. Because his family were obviously taking their efforts to do something at this point in time. Including his brothers. He had many brothers, including Bimala Prasad. And it looked like he was going to die. He went into a coma. The doctor said, there's nothing we can do. Hopeless. He's finished. So the family members came, including Bimala Prasad. They all gathered around. They started kirtan. Having kirtan around him. Bhaktivinoda wasn't there. He was still alive, but he wasn't there. They all gathered around with kirtan. And suddenly, he came out of the coma. Opened his eyes and looked at everyone. And started chanting Hare Krishna very clearly. And then he declared that Harinam Sankirtan is the only truth, the only way. He was totally normal. Then he said, I was born in a Sri Sampradaya family in my previous life. I offended Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And I had to take birth in this form and suffer as a result. But now, by your kirtan, you have delivered me. And he suddenly, on his form, on his body, Sri Vaishnava Tilak appeared. On his arms, everywhere. And then it transformed into Gaudiya Tilak. It turned into Gaudiya Tilak. In the front of everybody, they saw this. Miraculous event. And then it said that the Om sign also appeared on his forehead. And then they saw effulgence appearing in his stomach, rising up his body with the signs on his forehead, and just left from the top of his head, and he was dead. Amazing, huh? I only brought that up because he mentioned the Sri Sampradaya. So he was a Sri Sampradaya follower who had offended. So we should never offend the genuine practitioners of other religions, of other Sampradayas, or any whatever, if they're genuine. We don't offend anyone. Prabhupada would say it's the philosophy, not the person, that we discuss. We don't offend the person, we just discuss the philosophy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami ki jai. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami Tirobhava Mahamahotsava ki jai. Go Premanandi. Because we can learn relatively detachment from them. Incredible detachment. We're too attached and dependent sometimes on temporary items. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So try your best to pass on these teachings, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. We still have 1 or 2 sets of Bhagavatams left for distribution if anyone's interested, I think. I'm not sure if there's... Are there any left in the temple storeroom?
Yeah, there's about 150, I think.
You don't know how to count? Oh, there's over 300. Yeah. About 350. And we've got another 200 in the BBT. We have, no, 150 in the BBT. So please, if you have any friends, relatives, enemies, anyone you want to distribute a Bhagavatam set to in French, we have plenty of sets for distribute. You still have some left, don't you? You still have a few? Yeah. This is where the real work. Initially we distributed 200 sets, but they were more or less all to people who were like devotees waiting for it, you know. And now we got to find new customers, you know. This is where the real fun starts, huh? Because there are new devotees coming forward. Don't forget that too. Don't forget to, you know, connect newcomers to Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna. 3 sets were just distributed in Australia, French Bhagavatam sets, we sent them there. 5 in India, to French Embassy, Pondicherry, the temple, French-speaking part of France, of India, some people. Different places like that, where people speak French. So find different ways. Even Shantatma just sent one set to the Paris prison. They ordered one set of Bhagavatams. The Paris prison ordered a set of Bhagavatams. Can you believe it? Yeah, the prison, the main prison in Paris, ordered Srila Prabhupada's French Bhagavatam set. So there's other openings. It's not just, oh God, how can I distribute that on the street? Well, I'll tell you one thing. Last Christmas marathon, Gaur Nataraj said, I'm going to take a set of Bhagavatams out every day and see, surely maybe someone will buy it if we take it out. We took a set out. I don't think he sold it. But I went out, maybe only out a few days with the Bhagavatam set. But on one day I was out with him. And I met this one guy, man, black man. He said, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. He said, what? He was an old devotee. Had been around for a long time. And I started talking to him. He said, I said, it's obvious he was been a devotee before. I said, you ever got the Bhagavatam? He said, no, I've been looking for it. I said, it's right here in this box. And he took the Bhagavatam set. You know, there's so many people out there, you don't know who they are. So many.
One of his Bhagavad sets,
Huh?
one of the Bhagavad sets that Ekanath was bringing out was distributed by Ekanath on the street last month.
They've done a few, yeah, down in the city. To a lady lived just nearby where they were distributing. She bought the Bhagavatam set.
Yeah.
Right there in Châtelet. That was another one we did down there. And then in Dion, one witch, I mean, she's called a witch by local people. She looks like a witch, she behaves like a witch. Bought the Bhagavatam set in Lyon. Yeah, they met her on the street and they sold her the Bhagavatam set. They took it to her house. Her, what do they call it? Which is cave or whatever you call it. And she bought the bag. So there are, don't limit the opportunities for distributing Bhagavatam sets. Hare Krishna. If anyone here wants a Bhagavatam set, see me now. Don't wait. You don't know if you'll live longer. You might not last past breakfast, so you better see me right now, okay? Hare Krishna.
One devotee.
Huh?
One devotee wants Bhagavatam 10, 11 and 12 English.
Good for him.
But will you please give?
Glad to hear it.
Will you give that?
No. Don't have it.
Really?
You can't do things. They don't do that anymore.
No.
Not possible.
Oh, okay.
Well, as I say, it's not possible unless somebody wants the other volumes of the set and doesn't want. It actually might be possible because there are a certain group of individuals who go by the name Ritvik,
Yes.
and they don't want the last volumes of the Bhagavatam. They don't accept them. Very unfortunate souls. That's all I can say. 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, without going through the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, the rest of the Bhagavatam will not light up. 11th canto of the Bhagavatam turns the light on the whole Bhagavatam. Only some lights come on. But for the full light, 11th canto, boom! If you don't read it, you remain in the dark. Or if you don't understand what it's about. Certainly if you don't accept it, you remain in the dark, even if you haven't read it. So I'll have a look and see, but it's very hard to do that. It's very hard to get. They might be able to get. Who is that?
One Mataji from Blois.
From Blois. What's her name? What's her name? She's initiated now.
She's initiated.
Yeah, I know her very well. Amel. It should be called Amel.
Ama, some kind of.
Amel. Yeah, she got a new name now.
Amala.
Amala
Amala Bhakta, that's it, yeah. She used to be a now. Now she's Amala Bhakta. Yeah, okay, well, I'll keep a lookout. I mean, I know her. I've known her since the day she started, practically. No worries. Huh?
She started here? I think so.
She was living in Paris. She was working in the museum in the Sarcelles forest for years on end. And this is going back 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah. She stayed in New Mayapur for...
She stayed, then she came to New Mayapur for some time. But she was in Paris for a long, long time. She met the devotees in America, in South America. That's why she took initiation there. Mexico or something. Yeah, I'll try.
And we can try Srimad Bhagavatam in the street.
She also has to say, huh?
Should we try Srimad Bhagavatam in the street?
Yeah, we'll send you out with boxes of Bhagavatam sets. You can go person to person. You'll be lucky. Can't even sell a perfection of yoga.
Everybody can try.
They can. You can at least try. We can try. But, they usually go to people who are, we don't introduce it first. It's to people who've already got or already are other books. We don't start with the Bhagavatam. If you meet people who are really interested, you take their contact, and then you can follow up.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.